This is going to be a video on how to set up your grades, or rather set up your classes for in order to make sure that your grades that you're able to submit your grades at the end of a quarter and or semester. Unfortunately, my classes are already set up, so I won't be able to walk you through the exact steps of how to set up from having nothing set up, but I'll be able to show you the exact settings that you need to have for them to be set up correctly. So the first thing you want to do, obviously, is to log into MyStar and pull up your gradebook. I've pulled up my gradebook here, as you can see, and I've got my 5 classes there. The first thing I want to do is I want to first click on the class that I want to set up. So I'm clicking on Writing for Publication, and my students come up. Obviously, I already have assignments in there, and I already have percentages and grades in there, but I'm going to just walk you through the various steps of, or rather the settings that you want to make sure everything's set up. So you want to click on the Setup button, and you have a number of options here. The first option I'm going to click on and show is go through the preferences that you should click whenever you're setting up your classes. Here, calculate grades using tasks due on or before the grade date that needs to be clicked. Display points totals with calculated grades. I like that because it gives obviously the point totals, and it calculates the grades and shows the letter grade for yourself and students when they access their MyStar. Display only current active students on rosters. I click that. I do not want to see anybody who's no longer in the class, obviously. Include students enrolled as teacher assistants, TAs. We don't have any of those in the high school, so you wouldn't need to have that clicked. Edit assignment scores on spreadsheet tab. That gives you that ability to do that, so you may like that. I don't necessarily use it, but you can click that. Default assignment comments to be shared. That's student profile and parent connect. So you want everything to be shared because you want to be able to have the students see if they go on their profile, and then obviously you want parents to be able to see what is going on. Sort assignments descending by due date. I like that, so it's the latest things due first at the top rather than the older things at the top. And then obviously when Gradebook launches, you want the current term. So you don't want, if it's second semester, obviously you don't want anything else to show up. You just want the current term. So that's all clicked and good to go. If you change anything, make sure you click the Submit button before going on to the next tab. Options. I like to have numeric score values here. So that I always see, because I use percentages, or rather I use points. So let's say assignments worth 10 points. I want to have, I could put 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, whatever it may be, rather than just assigning A, B, C, or D. I like to have the calculate students' grades using the point calculation method. I like the point calculation method because that enables me to obviously use points, use scores when it calculates. And I also actually I categorize my grades. So for instance, and that's going to come up in categories in a second, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Missing assignments. This is important because if you if you haven't graded something yet and it has a blank, you didn't put a 0 in there. If you click this, anything that you have a blank for, like you just create an assignment and it goes in there and you haven't put scores in yet, if nothing's there, it'll still count it as a 0. So you'll have kids going, hey, I turned that in and you didn't grade it yet, but it's showing a 0, or it's negatively affecting my grade. I don't like to have it like that. I like to have it blank, so are not counted in grade calculations. So if I haven't put a score in and it's blank, I don't want it to negatively affect their grade yet, so I never click that. I always want are not calculated in grade calculations, missing assignment scores. And that means that I haven't put a grade in there. That's what it means. Assignment publishing. If I have any like assignment information, like might be for myself, like if assignment information, like if the kid like did a bad job, or I want something that I can just see, I do not share assignment information. And that's like any notes that I may put, so I don't necessarily want kids to see any notes that I might put in. Um, uh, Display current calculated grade book. I want that to come up, so I want people to see their current calculated grade book mark so that they know exactly what they have in the class. I display current calculated grade book mark percentage. I want them to be able to see the percentage as well. Calculated marking term to display. I always want current term on there. Do not display assignment class average. Sometimes I don't like that. So like if I personally don't want the entire class average to be displayed for everybody to see. I can use that for my own stats and statistics to see where kids are or to see where a specific class is, but I don't necessarily want everybody to see a specific class average. And then do not display, or rather display assignment percentage value. So I like to have the assignment percentage value to be displayed. Going into categories, I've set up my my scoring options to have categories. Like I want to have different categories to be a certain weight for specific classes. Like this class, writing for publication, I don't. This class particularly, I want just an overall cumulative percentage that a kid has to be evened out and have his that's going to be his quarter grade. I don't, but so here I just have all the weights 1, right? But if I go into another class, like if I click on this class, I do want to have categories, and I want my categories to be weighted. So for this class, my English class, I have different categories like assignment, COTCHA grammar, quizzes, tests, or papers, or projects. So I want them to be graded using a current weight. So for my overall, so this assignment, this everything going in this category, the assignment category, will only be worth 15% of their quarter grade. Quizzes can only be worth, all of them together will only be 25% of their quarter grade. Likewise, tests or projects or this grammar work, okay? But if I go into my other class, like I said, so if you want categories and you want categories to be weighted, you need to weight them like this. And all these scores need to, and you can click on this little button and it'll explain it a little bit better, okay? Academic, I want everything to be academic unless I'm making something a final exam, and then I would create a category that has an exam. But just for the quarter grades, and that would only be for semester, but just for the quarter grades, I just want everything to be academic, okay? So categories, you have to have different weight percentages here, and they all need to equal 100%. And then if I go into, let's say, back to my other class, I go back into writing for publication. This one I don't have, I have categories, but the category is not going to affect, everything's going to be, all those assignments, even though I have different categories for each assignment, all those assignments are going to be, so it's going to be an overall cumulative percentage, and the grades for each category are not weighted. Okay, so I just have one going straight down on categories. Grading scale. I use the standard. You can create a different grading scale for your marks. Okay, using this, and I use this according to the student handbook and Harperwood's handbook. These are the percentage marks for. So you want to change that if you need to. Okay, scoring options. This is if you want to have a button, like when you're putting in grades and you want to have a button. I want to put like missing scoring options. You could also put a late scoring option on there. So for instance, if I go into my normal, like if I'm going into a task, right? I go into a task and I pull up this task. This is a scoring option, missing, okay? Or I could go into another task. If I go into my other class, I have a late. So I go into this task, and those scores pull up, I can count that as late. And so for that scoring option, I've already put in a thing where, because that was late, this is their total score that they got. They did it 100%. They got 100% right. But I click on that button so I can make it, let's say it's 20% off, or 10% off, or 50% off, whatever I put it, just by clicking that button. So they got 10 out of 10, but they turned it in late, and therefore they got 20% off, or whatever I make that category as, or that scoring option. Okay, so I'm going back in here. That's scoring option. Okay, so you can make something late, and that means it's percentage of the score, and you can also put a color code on these. Okay, so each scoring option that you create by just clicking add and making one, you can make a different color code as well, so you know that you have it color coded, and there's a description there. Okay, so I'm going back into my first hour, writing for publication. Groups, I don't have any groups set up. You don't necessarily need to have groups set up. You could set up different groups, like for instance, you could have general ed students or special ed students, and you could have different things that would go on there. It doesn't really affect scoring or their grade per se, but you can create groups so you can see the different groups in your class. I know my students just off the top of my head. I know which ones are special ed, so I don't need to have those groups set up in MyStar. It's not going to affect your the way you submit your grades at all. So assignments. So here you'll be able to see your various assignments if you click that button. If you want to delete assignment, like you messed up, like, oh man, this participation, I put it in there wrong, I want to delete the whole thing, I would click on that and then just click that delete button. But that's so you could add or edit or delete an assignment that way. Copy setup. I can copy in the gradebook any setup for any different class. If I click class options and I want to copy from, let's say, last semester, and then so I got semester 1 writing for publication, I want to copy all of the various things, and I want to add all these things, the class options from this class, I want to add them to this class. Okay, so I can do a quick setup of a number of classes just by doing that, that copy setup from an old class. And then finally, configuration. This will let me see that everything's already set up. Obviously, I have X's on groups because I don't have any groups set up, but I don't need to have any groups set up. But these ones, options, categories, scale, a grading scale, and scoring options, they need to be set up. If I have X's here, it's going to have, my grades won't, even when I click on roster, it won't sometimes pick up a grade for the kid because my configuration is not set up. So I need to, so if I have X's for options, I need to set up options. If I have X's for categories, I need to set up categories. If I have X, likewise. So if I have any X's on these 4, I need to go back in and update that for each particular class. So now that my classes are set up correctly and I got checklists all the way through, except groups, and remember, groups, I don't necessarily need to set up groups. Everything should be good, and I have, I can put in grades. So if I want to add let's just say if I want to add an assignment, I click on by task, I click on add task, I can create, it was assigned on this date, display on this date. I'll do title, whatever it is. It's like, book work, or it could be a specific article review assignment, article review. And then short title. Short title shows up like in a list when they pull up their grades, because sometimes these titles are too long. All I have to do is click on this, and whatever the first part of this will show up. Category, obviously I have categories. I click on the category I want, and that could be article reviews. Points possible, whatever points I want to go, weighted. I click on, if I click on this button, assignment graded, then it's still blank in their gradebook. But if I off click it, they won't be able to see it at all. But then when I put in the grades, I'll need to remember once I submit and add in all their grades for that task, then I will need to make sure that I put in that the assignment's now graded. Okay, so I'm going to make this assignment 10 points. All right, and then there could be teacher notes, whatever, and then I want to make sure I click on submit. So I click on submit. So then it automatically pulls up. Remember, I had assignment graded, so I clicked on that button. All right. If I have assignment graded, then they're going to be able to see the assignment when they pull it up, but it'll still say blank until I put a score, whether it's 0 or whether it's, a score. Okay. So all I have to do when I put in grades is I just, fill in, obviously, my grades. If something is missing or late, remember I set up my categories, or rather my options, scoring options. I could click that, and those scoring options would be in effect. You can put a little extra score. If the computer will, like when I hit submit, the computer will ask me, hey, well, actually it didn't. A lot of the times it'll pull up, it's only worth 10 points. And I could also fill, like if nobody else turned it in, I can fill in 0 and boom, it's all there, submit. So this is fairly easy. Most of you guys know all this stuff already. I can also remove the values just by clicking there on the blank, and it'll say remove all this, all the values. So I want to redo it or something like that. So that's that. That's setting up your grades for gradebooks, and you have to do that for every class, or just double check when you go into setup. You can go through and you can check the configuration on every specific class. And this is Mr. Murphy, so if you have any questions, you could ask me or Mr. Rabideau any problems once you're turning in your grades, or rather the setup is wrong in your grades and you're having issues. So hopefully that answers any questions you may have regarding gradebook setup. Thanks a lot.